Hey, Jazz Ross Monroe here. Before transitioning into marketing for construction technology, I worked in the AEC industry. So that means I worked for commercial architecture, engineering, and construction companies. And man, do I wish that when I was doing proposals back then, they had the AI tools that were available to us today. Um, of course, as some of you may know that work on proposals, writing the project approach is probably the hardest thing to do because usually you can't do it in isolation. You have to reach out to a member from your project team, usually a project manager or another architect or an engineer. If you are a smaller firm and it's you, well, it can still be just as challenging to write a project approach. But one of the things that you usually have to do in order to write a really detailed project approach for your proposal is to start with an interview. And so typically that means you're going to interview the person that is going to be doing, or at least creating the plan for performing the work. And now with the tools that we have, I would definitely recommend using Zoom or Teams because they have transcription elements. But if you have 15 minutes or you're on a phone call or something, you can also use your iPhone to record, or if you have an in-person meeting. I would also suggest using your iPhone if you are the person who's writing the approach and you need a start in order to get going. Sometimes it's a heck of a lot easier to use your iPhone and start doing a recording that way than staring at like a white blank page on that's way harder. So I found that even if I'm needing to write something, even just content for you guys or for anybody really, or even in my day-to-day job, being able to speak into your iPhone and just talk through a process, sometimes even having somebody else that you can speak to really kind of helps that. So the next step is transcribing whatever you've said. So like I said, you can have Zoom or Teams, or you can feed your video or your iPhone recording. If you can feed that into, because it does accept different file formats, like a platform like rev.com. That's a good one that I've been using, and that will give you a transcript of what was said during a recording. The next thing that I do is I take this transcript and I feed it into ChatGPT. So nothing really crazy there, as far as how it's pretty easy, feed it into ChatGPT. Now the thing that really differentiates, I think, good content from great content coming out of ChatGPT is what kind of prompt you use. And so one of the prompts that I think is really great for making sure that you get the right kind of content out of ChatGPT it's called the CoStar framework. And I have a link to it in the notes for this, but it's COSTAR. And what that stands for is context, setting the stage; objective, defining your goals for the piece of content that you want to create; style, so this could be professional, funny, whatever you're writing, but for a project approach, it's probably going to be professional. Tone; audience, so clarify who's going to read this content; and then last but not least, response, what kind of format you're looking for. So if you need 2 pages, if you need 1 page, how many words, tell ChatGPT what you need. And so an example of using this framework to write an approach, so let's say I have the transcript, I fed it into ChatGPT, and now here we go. Context: I'm an architect from ABC Architecture writing a project approach based on the attached transcript for a proposal to the University of Florida Student Center project. Objective: create a project approach that explains our design process and highlights the key elements of our approach. Style: reflect the polished and detailed style of a successful architecture firm. Tone: professional. Audience: a diverse group of decision makers at the University of Florida, including those with architectural experience and future facility users. That's really important too for a project approach, because typically you're going to have people that are reviewing, you're going to have a selection committee, and not everybody has your level of expertise. So no matter what you're selling, make sure that you use a variety of terms that are familiar to like an everyday person that may not be familiar with what you're selling. So that's really important. You're going to have an audience that really understands it, but then you're also going to have an audience that may not. So make sure you clarify like things like acronyms or anything like that when you're writing your approach. And then last but not least, response: limit the response to 2 pages. So typically in RFPs, you're going to have a a size limitation. So just making sure that you tell ChatGPT what that size limitation is ahead of time will make sure that you get a good result. So once you've done that, you should get a great result out of ChatGPT. You fed it in your own words. So it's not like you're asking ChatGPT to create something for you. I think that's why I like this approach is you're asking it to work with what you've given ChatGPT instead of ChatGPT pulling from wherever. But just to refine it, clean it up, make sure that it's clear enough for your audience. That's the most important thing. So hopefully if you follow these tips, it's going to really help you on your next project approach. So step 1, gather the information. Step 2, transcribe your recording. Step 3, feed that transcript into ChatGPT. Step 4, make sure you use a framework when writing your prompt for ChatGPT like CoStar. And then, of course, last but not least, nothing is ever perfect when it comes out of ChatGPT. You got to make sure that you refine it just a little bit more. Just go back and just make sure that it says exactly what you're wanting it to say and it doesn't mislead your audience.